All right. So for your Capstone Project Part 4, you'll be looking at chapters 9 to 12. And what I would say is download all your files from chapter Capstone Project Tree. Download all the files from that one. And what you're going to want to do is in chapter 9, here, you're going to be given a script that you want to kind of put in. So you're going to want to edit your area description HTML file, and then you need to add a script container for the align figure function. You're also going to need to add an onload and on resize event handler to the body that's going to call that align function. So we'll see here it lays it out how to add them for you. And now down here, you're going to make this type of web page. So this one's a bit heftier, but essentially you're going to calculate this web page based on the month and then these 4 boxes. So you're going to have these 4 boxes that the button's going to read from. You will have a lot of this written out for you again, so you want to go ahead and take a look at it. And I believe the script will be there as well. Let's just make sure that the options are there. You'll see here that each of these guys are each of the months, so each of the options is from that drop-down menu. And then down here, you'll have a few functions, but the main function that you want to focus on for this guy is this function called calculator. So calculator, you'll see here, is going to get each of these forms, elements, latitude.value, panel slope.value, and then calculate it. And then it does something called row.insertCell down here. And what that does is insert cell at 2 is it's going to update the table values with whatever is clicked. So at the end of the day, what you want this page to do is when you put in these values and you hit calculate, these values down here should be updated. The layout of them shouldn't change too much, but the numbers inside of it should change. Okay. Majority of chapter 9's code is provided for you, but please get started on that because that's it's a bit heftier with the amount of items that you have to add in. For your chapter 10, you're going to employ some JavaScript statements, math functions, and these window property to compute data. You're going to do this in an external JavaScript file, which is going to improve the navigation of it. So let's take a look at our chapter 10 here. Let's see here. So we're going to use some if statements inside of here. And you're also going to use this concept of alert statements. So we saw alert statements before, but alert statements are something that pop up on your screen that say, are you okay with this? You could say okay or cancel. That's what the alert statements do. And you can see up here that this is just a large function that's inside of a JavaScript file associated with your previous chapter's code. Okay. So I believe this one. So you can copy the JavaScript code. And you'll see down here that you'll have an alert down here that runs when you're done with that one. Yep, and I believe the Chapter 6's case study, you'll reference that one, but this guy is all JavaScript. So Chapter 10 is just kind of referencing all this JavaScript here, and you'll notice at the very end how you put that in is you're going to create a JavaScript file called navigation.js, and then you're going to add this line of code called body unload is equal to create header footer, and then you'll see it. If there's another one, you can call an extra one like so, but you're going to add that into your chapter 6's web page. So whichever web page you finish chapter 6 with, you're going to add this code into it. Okay. There's quite a bit of JavaScript code, so please take your time going through it. But it's straightforward enough where it's just looking at a few alert boxes. Okay. Cool. Now, for your chapter 11, you're going to create a file called properties.html, and this is going to illustrate arrays and objects to maintain a stored database. So this one has a lot of code again with head and script. You can go ahead and just copy down what's already there for us. You'll see here that you get an array of objects called properties. And then each of these objects have, each of these array objects have a bit of information about them. So what you're going to do here again, you can loop through the array in various ways that you like. They're doing a lot of the looping for you, so you don't need to worry about coding this on your own. And essentially, you'll see here that this object one property is a list of items of that property. So each of these guys is going to be set there for you. You could go ahead and figure it out that way. And then there's a few functions here as well. And then, of course, make sure that you finish chapter 10 before chapter 11, because your navigation.js is required to run it. So make sure that you can reference that one later. And you'll see up here that at the very end of your property.js file, you're going to make a separate JavaScript class called JavaScript file called property.js. There's going to be a class called property where we use our constructors and these attributes a part of it. So that's kind of all the code that you'll be using here. You can definitely just copy this stuff down. You don't need to change too much there, but please make sure that you reference what the constructor is doing, how these row works, and essentially what's going on in that constructor up there. So you're going to have a few files. You're going to have a properties.js file, a properties.html file, and you're going to want to have the navigation.js file finished as well from chapter 10. And again, if you're confused about how many files you're working with, always feel free to reference the outputs from up here. The case study will mention a few files that when you're going through it, just make track of. Now, for your last one called Canvas, you're going to create a HTML file called solarshadowing.html, which is going to be computed geometric states, which is pretty cool. And you can see here that you're going to be just referencing using this canvas code, which we'll take a look at tomorrow during a lecture of how to make it. For the time being, you can kind of copy down this code if you'd like. And there's quite a bit of code in there as well. But again, very reference. Also, you don't need to worry about the comments for these ones. If you want to take in the comments, that's fine. But again, anything after the 2 slashes doesn't run with your code. That's just more so for your help. There's a few functions, again, a part of this guide. There's going to be a lot more functions than normal because you're going to be working with math quite a bit. If this looks extremely complicated, you can just copy it down. It's just declaring how to adjust it there. And tomorrow we're going to be looking at this ternary if here, which essentially says it's either this one or that one. It's an if statement just in one line. But go ahead and start copying this one stuff down too. There's an illustration down here that shows you what's the mathematical calculation of what's going on up there. But again, you're most likely going to create a solar angles.js file and then a solar angles.html file or solar shadowing.html. So after you make that JavaScript file, you should be getting something that looks like this, where you can have it updated. And then, of course, you could just copy this code down here for it too. So the Capstone part 4 is kind of hefty with how much items you have to get through. So again, there's going to be chapters 9 to 12. So please take some time to work on it.